Can you guys see this? Yes or no? Okay, I'm gonna assume you guys can see this just fine. So, today we are going to be talking about pixel art and animation. This is a bit of a different path from the game design stuff that we've been doing. Oh yeah, I'm Sarah, by the way. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Sarah. I'm the event coordinator, but I also do a lot of game design and a little bit of art. And I figured that it would be a good time to touch on. Am I sharing right now? Yes, I should be. Can you guys see it? Please. I'm gonna lose it. Oh, okay, you can see it fine? I'll give like 1 minute. Okay. Yeah, Janelle, check your... try leaving the stream and then rejoining. Sometimes it's... Yes, this is recorded. By the way. Oh, he's not in the chat. Yep. Okay. Alright. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Oh my god. Hi, Sarah. I am event coordinator. I do a lot of game design, and stuff. So, today we're gonna go over stuff that you need for a game, which is art. So, first things first, we don't have time to watch this documentary. We're not gonna watch too much of this documentary. We really can't. But basically, the documentary just kind of gives you like a quick overview of the history of pixel art, which in our case, don't really have time because I'm kind of tired and I don't want to do a 2-hour workshop. So instead, we're just gonna get straight into what is a pixel. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are already familiar with pixels. They're basically a physical point in a raster image being any image that is on a computer screen. So it is basically the smallest element in a picture. And that is like the smallest thing that you can control. So like, as you can see here, everything on your screen is made up of tiny, tiny little pixels that are either red, green, or blue, RGB. That is how electric screens work. So the things we're going to be focusing on today in this workshop are like the main components of a pixel art. So I put this slide here just to kind of show you guys like how a lot of these older games use pixel art in order to make their game. So one of the issues with pixel art is that because it is so small, it's really hard to like make really detailed objects, you know? Obviously for games that have really talented pixel artists, they can make gigantic works of pixel art that basically look like they were drawn. But if you're like not that experienced, then you're not going to be making gigantic pixel creations. So back when Legend of Zelda first came out, they did not have the space on consoles to make gigantic pixel arts. So what they did was they took advantage of sizing and coloring. So you can see from this little Link sprite, it looks vaguely like a person, but what they did to make sure that you knew it was your character, they sized him basically a little differently from like the background, and they also made his colors much more like popping out, so that way you could easily distinguish him from the background because it all kind of just looks like blobs of pixel. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're designing. Make sure that your pixel art stands out. And the way they got this little Link guy, go back. The way they got this little Link guy was they used a concept called abstraction. So, hello to anyone who's just joining. We're talking about pixel art, and you just made it for abstraction. So, abstraction is basically the idea of taking a real-life object and reducing it down to details that you can put in a pixel art creation. So this is an example from Space Invaders, the OG, and this is showing basically how the creator made the art for Space Invaders. So if you can see here, here's the actual like images that this artist wanted to convey inside of like the game. So he basically took these real concepts and broke them down into their main parts in order to put them in a pixel art. So that's basically what pixel art is. You're taking these big components of a real object, and you're breaking it down to its core elements in order to fit it inside of tiny little pixels. And this is a very important thing that you should practice. Oh my god, my voice is going. I've been talking a lot today, so in a little while I'm going to stop the talking and we're going to make some art. Here's an example of just how crazy pixel art can get. This is obviously at a higher level than most of us, but if you get really good at pixel art and you kind of master the art of abstracting things into smaller components, eventually you can start building back up and making just these massive works of art with pixels. Another thing they use to, kind of make pixel art a little more exciting is lighting. This is from a game called Hyperlight Drifter. If you guys have ever played Hyperlight Drifter or ever heard of it, you know that lighting is a very, very important part of the game. It's very important when you have a game with pixels to make sure that nothing kind of gets lost because, pixels are this very tiny object. So this game used lighting in order to differentiate the environments, their character, and I would highly suggest doing that in your games if you know how to. In another workshop, we're most likely going to cover how to do lighting in 2D games, but keep this in the back of your mind when you're designing a character. Make sure that, the lighting, it would be a good character to use in lighting. Like, don't make your character too dark. Here's another thing, shadows. Shadows are probably one of the most important parts of pixel art, and in 2D art in general, because that's how you show dimension. So in this example, this is a bit of a complicated advanced example, but the artist for this one used a lot of shadows to differentiate between the different layers of like the background, the foreground, and just kind of creates like 3D geometry. And this is a more simplified version of that. You have the ball, you have this shadow over here that kind of shows it is a 3D object where the light source is coming from here and it's hitting right here. So that's something you can incorporate into your pixel art if you think about where the light source is and you kind of make those pixels accordingly. And it can help with, showing details. Oh, Janelle, your mic is unmuted. There we go. And finally, this is just voxel art, which is basically 3D pixel art, where instead of you having one single pixel as the main foundational component, you have a voxel, which is one little cube. And then you put all these little cubes together and you make what looks like 3D pixel art. This is like one of the most popular forms of like 3D art to use. I mean, as you can see in this picture, Minecraft uses it, and everyone loves like the Minecraft voxel art style. So this is just showing an example of what pixel art can become and how pixel art has kind of changed over the years. We haven't completely abandoned pixel art. So this is the part where we get to the art portion. So what we're gonna do today is we are gonna make some art. We're gonna make self-portraits. So for this exercise, we're gonna use a site that I will get to in a second. But what you're going to do is you're gonna go to this site, you're going to create a new pixel project, and you're going to create a representation of yourself, but as a pixel art character. So it can be anything, if you want to make your representation like a fire-breathing dragon, or like a dude with purple hair and like trees for feet, you can do that, whatever your representation is. So this is the website we're going to use, PIXILART. If you've never done pixel art before, this is a really great starting place. I'll go to it right now. So this is the website. It's really easy to use. It's really intuitive. It's free, and there's a lot of like things to look at. So the main way you do it is you just go to login, sign up. You can use a Google account, Twitter, Facebook. I just personally use my Google account. This one. There we go. Then you're in. And then up here you can click this button that says Start Drawing. I'm just gonna pause and wait for any questions. Because I see some people typing. I'm gonna slow down a little bit. I won't be able to draw a portrait of myself. Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can stick around and kind of get the idea of how to, like, create a pixel character. Sure. So, I'm gonna let you guys, like, take a second to get on PIXILART if you want, so we can kind of draw. For now, I will click Start Drawing. Looks like you didn't save. New drawing. With 100, and this is all in pixels. So most games commonly use multiples of 4 for pixel art. So 32 by 32 or 64 by 64. I'm gonna personally choose to do 32 by 32 because it's easier to do it on a smaller palette than it is a bigger one. Today's challenge is potion. Interesting. Okay. Is everyone good with getting to this point? Do we all manage to figure out pixel art? Awesome. So, alright. I'll just quickly go over like the basics of pixel art. So, with pixel art, you have your brush. You have, let me get rid of that. You have different colors that you could use. You have eraser tool, which does what it does. You have the brush tool, which makes a lot of pixels. You have shape tools that you can use. You have the bucket. You have spray paint. Very cool. You have text tool. It's not working. Oh, here we go. Hello. Yeah, there we go. And you can do that. You have color picker, select tool, which basically if you draw something and you go to select tool, you can select it, and then from there you can make it bigger, make it smaller, squash it, move it around. Yeah. If you've ever used any sort of art tool, it's basically, it has all the basics that you need. And they have crop, where you can resize your canvas. They have layers, so you can make different layers, you can move them, whatever. So it's a really intuitive tool that if you don't own any art programs, then this is like a really good starting thing to use. It's not bad at all. So I guess I will start my own portrait. So I have short brown hair. I am kind of short, and I'm trying to think what other core features of myself I want to incorporate in my drawing. I'll just start with like a head. And there we go. Nice little pixel person. Alright. Next steps, gonna be adding in some color. So for this, I like using the paint bucket tool. So you can just take the color, splash it. What other colors do you have? Well, it's not really my skin tone, but I don't really have my skin tone. Where? I'm not that skin tone. Whatever. I'll do something funny. I will be a little pink. There we go. My hands. And then for my shirt, what am I wearing right now? I am wearing a blue shirt. So I will do blue. My pants, I'm wearing black pants, so I will do like some gray because I don't want it to blend in with the outline. For my shoes, my Vans, they are white Vans. I'll do a little bit gray, so they're not just completely white. Here we go. Got a pixel person now. Amazing. And then, next step, add in some shading. I'm gonna erase this little one. Ah, that's annoying. But I guess it kind of works. Let me move the body over a little bit so I don't get that annoying. Oh. Yeah, the most annoying part of doing pixel art is when it's slightly uneven. And then you kind of have to, like, figure it out. Yeah, that works. So next thing we're going to do is some shading. So I'm going to imagine, like, the light source is, like, up here. So that would mean my hair is kind of darker around here. Just, you know, if you're just starting out learning art and shading, best thing you could do, just shade the edges. Shade the edges that are not close to the light source, and you will be just fine. There we go. Boo-doo-doo. Doo-doo-doo. Gonna make this part a little... Here we go. So, here is my beautiful creation. I love it. It's so nice. If you're still working on your pixel art, you have plenty of time. Actually, I'm gonna give you guys like... I'm gonna give you guys like 15, 20 minutes to make some sort of creature. Because after we make our creature, we're gonna do some animation. So, yeah. Make sure you have something to animate in like 15 to 20 minutes. I'm gonna let y'all do that. Okay, here we are. So, now we are getting onto the animation portion. So, basically, animation is taking a bunch of frames and playing them back to back really fast until you have something that looks like it's moving. Because our eyes can't really comprehend, you know, a really fast moving compilation of frames. So in our head, we just see it as like one moving picture. So that's basically what we're going to be doing. So, as I just said, it's basically split up into frames. So these are a bunch of assets from Super Mario, and it basically shows you like the really simplistic animation of the game. So here's the Goomba getting squished. There's literally three frames. Normal, a little bit squished, and then super squished. And as you can see, we have the piranha plant, we have squid, we have Koopa, all those things. So you can see that in order to make good animations, because you can argue that Mario has some pretty good animations, you really don't need all that much. And it's really a super simple movement too. So there are 12 principles in animation. If you've never studied animation, these are all like the things that you need to pay attention to as an animator. But for today, we're just going to be going over these 4 because they are like the foundational principles, and they're also pretty easy. Actually, those first 2 animations of the Goomba's VOXEL, squishing his first frame. I did not know that. Thank you, Austin. I actually did not know that. So yeah, what Austin just said, these 2 are walking, this one is squish. Squish is 1 frame. My bad. But yeah, as you can see, walking is literally 2 frames, squishing is 1. Really does not take a lot of frames to make an animation. Which is why we're going to focus on these 4. Squash and stretch, anticipation, straight ahead, pose to pose, and follow through and overlapping action. These are the 4 things that you're going to learn today. They're very simple, very easy, and then we're going to animate that in our own drawings. So the first one, squash and stretch. Pretty self-explanatory. As a character moves down, it squashes, and its body becomes a little more wide, and then when it goes up, it stretches so its body becomes kind of thin. And this happens when, the character is like, doing some sort of action that makes gravity weigh more on them, and then when gravity is like not weighing on them as much, they go up. And this is basically a super simple like animation. And this is the frames for it. He goes up, he goes down, he widens out, and then he gets thinner as he comes up. Really simple. And this is also the same thing as that volume. So as you can see, you change the volume. That's the main principle of this foundation. You go up, you get thin, you go down, you get wide. Easy. Here's another example for you in case you didn't get it. Anticipation. I guess we'll play this clip.
I see you shiver with anticipation.
I love that. I love that clip. But that's basically what anticipation is. So you kind of get ready to perform an action and then you perform it. A really simple way would be jumping. So as you can see in this animation, you can see the light squat down and kind of like get ready to jump, and then he releases. So that's basically what you can do in your animation, which honestly, they're really simple. You change the shape without changing the volume. Yeah, so that's basically what it is. You want to make sure that the shape stays like the same like size, but when you increase the size, a way you can think about it is if you're going to decrease the height, you're going to increase the width. If you decrease the width, you're going to increase the height, because you want to make sure that the shape still has the same amount of matter. So that's basically how you can think about it. So you're not necessarily changing like the volume of the shape, you're just changing the shape of it, kind of, if that makes sense. I don't know. But that kind of goes along with anticipation, where it's like you kind of change the shape to kind of make it go down a little bit, and then you release. So this is overlapping action, and this GIF is broken. Great. Okay. Well, this is basically follow through and overlapping action. So in this clip, Mulan, you can see that when she whips her head up, her hair follows through. Because if an object is moving at a speed and you stop that object, whatever is attached to that object is still going to move at that same speed. So we're basically copying that, but with this. So if you have something like hair or clothing or anything that kind of, is free flowing, you want to make sure that if you're animating something, you're keeping in mind that these components of it still move, even after like the parent object has stopped moving. And pose to pose, this is pretty much like, so I'll explain this. It's not necessarily animation, but it's a way of animating. So one way of animating is you could do pose to pose, where you basically animate each keyframe and then you draw the frames in between. While straight ahead is you basically just animate every single frame all in one go, like in a linear fashion. Pose to pose is useful because with keyframing, you can kind of get the main movements in and then fill in the gaps until eventually it looks good. But straight ahead is also pretty useful if you're doing a really simplistic animation, like a squat, where you can pretty much just animate it all in one go. But if you're doing something a little more complex, like for example, if you're jumping and then landing and then squatting down, it would be really helpful to animate the anticipation before you jump, the character in the air, and then the character back down again, and then fill in those frames. So yeah, the next assignment I'm going to give you guys is making an idle animation, a jumping animation, and if you have time, a walking animation. So, like, this is the idle, this is the jumping, this is the walking. And you can do that in PIXILART. Woo! So, I'll just show you guys how to make animations in PIXILART really quick, and then I will release you guys to do it yourself. So if you're in like this thing, something random like fires also. Yes, that is very true. All right, so what we're gonna do is if you come down to this thing over here, this bar, you're gonna see this is basically where you add frames. So if you click this button to add a frame, it's gonna show you this little like skeleton. And what you can do is you can draw something here and it'll basically play this. So what I tend to do is you can click here, it says duplicate frame, and it'll create another frame that's exactly the same. And then on this frame, you can change whatever. So like, move my head down a little bit. And then, come back. There we go. And then you can preview it, and it kinda, it's terrible quality, but as you can see, preview size. Can I do this? And then will it look better? Okay, well, that's kind of what we got going for us. But yeah, you can change the preview size and then it'll look a little better. But basically, it just cycles through the frames that you add, and then you can also change the speed of it. So if I want to change it to like 25, it'll go even faster. But you can change it to pretty much whatever you want. If I set it to, I think 200, and you can make the frames different speeds each. So you can have one frame go really fast and the next go not so fast. So the higher the number, the slower your animation is going to be. So play around with your sprite. Use these frames. Definitely use a copy frame to basically make a copy of what you just did. And yeah, try incorporating those principles that we learned. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I just want to expose you guys to animation and pixel art so that you can kind of have a little tool in your toolbox for when you're making your own games, in case you need to create your own assets or create your own animations. In this workshop, we won't be getting into how to import these into Unity. We most likely will at a later workshop. I think we have that planned, and I think I will be teaching that. But for today, we're gonna just create our little animation. In case any of you have never done animation before, this is your first ever animation. Wow. And I'm gonna give my voice another break because it's starting to hurt. So let's work on this, and we're gonna come back at like, animation takes a while. So I'm gonna say like 8:30, tentative. Maybe we'll do like 8:20 if everyone is done. And we are back. Great. Save as a .pixel, save drawing. Sprite sheet, export frames. You can also export the individual frames if you like one of them. I'm just gonna pop my GIF in here because I like it. I have no idea how to select certain parts of the main image and edit it to create an animation. That's fine. If you keep using pixel art, you'll eventually learn the gist of all the controls. You just gotta click around a little bit. Here's my GIF. It'd be kind of too late to start a portrait. That's okay. I hope that you at least learned a little something about principles of animation. And hopefully you can make something cool for your game. The most important part is I just want you guys to learn something. Even better if you come away from this with a piece of art, or if you are inspired to create a piece of art. Well, it is 8:32, and I'm going to call it here. I'm gonna stop the stream because I don't want to keep you guys for too long. Goodbye, stream. I hope that you guys had some fun making some art, getting a break from the grind that is college. It's very important to take a step back and just get a new skill. Yeah, sure you can. Go ahead. You can stay after. And that's really all I have for you guys today. So, if you guys are all good, you can take off. I hope you guys enjoy your art. I hope you guys keep practicing pixel animation and drawing